Greetings. Imhotep, Uncle Johnson Duaneta, Tuaneta. Om Namaste, Namaskar, some. Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Arigato, Ni hao, how, Hola, Jambo, and many other greetings that if I forget a greeting that you are used to, please excuse me. But I want to get to the point of why I'm on, as usual, because I get sidetracked sometimes, or I'll start going into elaboration more than normal. So I had some more downtime, finished driving now, so before I go ahead and freshen up and eat something and turn in, I did say I would read from these two books here. And so I'm going to read another maybe chapter or another section, another part from each book. Okay? Try to stay up to date with it. And if you guys are willing to listen to me read or enjoy it, hit the like button or the thumbs up, and share if you will, and subscribe if you like. There's more that I'll share, but these are just one of the books at the beginning of the few books that I'm going to be reading. Okay, and there's more content I'll share as well, but right now we're doing readings. Okay, from this book, author Mooji, Vaster Than Sky, Greater Than Space. Last video I read a part. I read from the introduction, and I also read what was this here? The Greatness of Being, which is probably part of the introduction as well. So now I'm going to be reading part 1, just stepping into oneness. Okay, so you all let me know if you can hear, leave in the comments, because again, I'm new to this, so I don't know if the sound is right or not. Last video I kept getting phone calls in and I thought it was interrupting the video, but turns out it wasn't, so that's a good thing. Anyhow, here we go. We're going to get started. And again, this is the book by author Mooji, Mooji. Let's kick that glare off of there. Vaster than sky, greater than space, what you are before you become. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to try to speak up a little louder. Okay. Here we are. Part 1, stepping into oneness. Okay. Before we begin part 1, there's like a statement or poem, looks like. And I'm going to read that before I get started. I'm going to go in the order it sits in the book, out of respect. Okay. It starts out as, truth is what we are. It is our essential nature and being. It is the pure self, the limitless one, the ultimate reality. It is awareness itself. But we have become unaware of the magnificence of our true nature on account of our upbringing, conditioning, and education, which paint a very different picture of who we are, in all of which we believe. I'm going to read it over again. Okay? Truth is what we are. It is our essential nature and being. It is the pure self, the limitless one, the ultimate reality. It is awareness itself. But we have become unaware of the magnificence of our true nature on account of our upbringing. conditioning, and education, which paint a very different picture of who we are, in all of which we believe. Okay? So that just kind of gives a little bit of elaboration into what this is all pointing to. Again, as we said last video. Okay, so now I'm going to start reading from the first part. The title is what you see all there is? Is what you see all there is? Is what you see all there is? Many years ago, this is Muji speaking, in my school days, a boy showed me a small picture, a very simple black and white image, just a bit larger than a postcard. He asked me, "What do you see?" I thought he was joking because it was so clearly a white vase on a black background. Excuse me. I asked, "What is this? A trick question?" But he insisted, "Really, look at it. What do you see?" "It's a white vase on a black background, plain and simple. No decoration, just a shape. Is there something more?" The answer is yes. You are missing something because you're only looking in one way. By now, he was getting impatient, so he said, "Can you see the two faces? Look from the white to the black." Ah, suddenly I could see that there were two identical faces looking at each other. Then he asked, "And the vase? Can you still see the vase? Or the vase?" I hadn't bothered about trying to see the vase again because I was still so excited to be seeing the faces. So now, well, he answers, "No, I can't see the vase. What happened to the vase?" He tried to help me see. "Look at the picture. See the vase again?" I looked and looked until again it was the vase. Then all of a sudden, I could see both the vase and the faces simultaneously through just a slight shift of perspective and focus. That's a key right there. Obviously, no change had occurred to the picture itself. The shift was only in my perception. Okay, next page. We all start out looking at life from the particular perspective of our upbringing, which provides us with assumptions about who we are. For most of us, this culturally impaired point of view simply remains our perspective as we move through life. There are 7 billion people living on the face of the earth, but rare is that being who goes through life seeing more than the conditioned body-mind, only the vase. Conditioned body and mind, or body-mind combination. Only the vase, referring to, as who we essentially are. So what it's saying is like, okay, there are 7 billion people living on the face of the earth, but rare is that being who goes through life seeing more than the conditioned body-mind, referring to like seeing that vase only, as who we essentially are. A limited perspective, so to speak, or only looking at things one way, as conditioned to do so. Very few question their belief in their identity or personality, and thus they miss the opportunity to realize their true nature. Although the metaphor of the vase and the faces is a good illustration of how we perceive a limited reality based on our conditioning, it also falls short. The truth that I am pointing to is beyond just being able to visualize from a point of view and then from multiple perspectives. It is about discovering that there is a deeper reality to what we see, and that reality is always here. We must simply come to recognize it as our own, very own self. I'm going to read that again. The truth that I am pointing to is beyond just being able to visualize from a viewpoint, or the truth that I am pointing to is beyond just being able to visualize from a new point of view and then from multiple perspectives. It is about discovering that there is a deeper reality to what we see, and that reality is always here. And that reality is always here, that deeper reality than what we normally see. We must simply come to recognize it as our very own self. So what he's saying is there's a deeper reality than what we're conditioned to see, as I was saying earlier in the first few videos and some of my other videos. And this is where Mooji has inspired and confirmed some of these things that I've always felt in my heart, and many of you probably have felt in your heart, but like myself, didn't quite find a way to express it, or either compressed it because of pure conditioning and, as it said before, upbringing and conditioning and belief systems and things. You suppress this natural, intuitive sensing that you and I actually are, that we are conditioned to not pay attention to. You see? Okay. It goes on to say, spirituality is the search for perfect understanding, for self-discovery, introspective self-discovery, for truth, the truth of who and what you truly are. And it must take place right where you are. The truth that you are searching for must already be right here, for it is timelessly present. I say again, the truth that you are searching for must already be right here, for it is timelessly present. Means it was present before time, in order to see time come and go. So it must be present even after time goes. In fact, I'm not going to keep elaborating because I don't want to hold up and take away from the book, but just think about that concept, that in order for time to exist, something had to be there to think it up. You see? Some mind or consciousness had to already be, so that the concept of time and its observation could have a place to arise in. You see? A space to arise in and thrive in. This is you and I as the consciousness that operates the body. But again, I don't want to, let me digress and go on in reading. Okay. So it goes on to say in the next paragraph, what is truth? They pose the question, what is truth? Truth can never be merely a wholly cluster of concepts, conditioning, or beliefs. I'll say again, truth can never be merely a wholly cluster of concepts, conditioning, or beliefs. It is not an event. Truth is not an event, nor is it an object apart from you in some sacred vault. Now, I'm going to go over that one more time because that's a very key sentence or stanza here. It poses the question, what is truth? And then it goes on to say, truth can never be merely a wholly cluster of concepts, conditioning, or beliefs. That's something to think about. It is not an event. So it's not an event. Truth is not an event. Nor is it an object apart from you in some sacred vault. So truth is not some object separate from you, locked away in some sacred vault, kept as secret for only a select few. That is not what truth is. So the seeking for truth is not in some vault by some secret society. You see? Truth is not in the sky, millions of light years away from you. All of that happens within this truth. All of this happens within this truth. You see? But I'm not going, I got to control it. Let me hold it back and read more. Okay. For truth to be truth, it must be unchanging, immutable, ever present, yet it is beyond characteristics and conditions. It cannot be anything that comes and goes. For everything changeful, which subject to change, everything that is constantly changing or will change. For everything changeful arises from it. That's exactly what I was talking about, and what we were all, talking about in the past previous videos. For everything changeful arises from it. So it's saying, truth, it cannot be anything that comes and goes. For everything changeful arises from it, and comes and goes in it. What I was exactly saying. So I'm going to kind of digress and turn my dial back a little bit, so I can let the book say it, because sometimes you get so excited to share, and I may be echoing exactly what the book is saying naturally. So let's let it hear from Mooji's words in the book. Okay? So, for everything changeful arises from it and comes and goes in it. Truth is what we are. You and I. Truth is what we are. It is our essential nature and being. Now remember, I said in one of my other videos, with beingness. Beingness is not an object. Beingness is the experience. The experience. That all other experiences happen within. So, it is the pure self, the limitless one, the ultimate reality. It is awareness itself. But we have become unaware of the magnificence of our true nature on account of our upbringing, conditioning, and education, all of which paint a very different picture of who we are, and all of which we believe. So we believe this upbringing, conditioning, and education that paints a very different picture of our true nature. You see what I'm saying? You see what the book's saying? You see what Mooji's saying? All right, let me stop. All right, let's get back to it. If you open your inner eyes, you will see the truth that lies right here inside of you, beyond the transient play of phenomena we call life. I'm going to read that again. If you open your inner eyes, the ones that still see when the eyes are closed, you will see the truth that lies right here inside of you, beyond the transient play of phenomena we call life. Beyond everything we can see or perceive. When I say beyond, I don't mean beyond in terms of distance, but beyond in terms of subtlety. Very subtle. The search for truth is not about running away from the things of this world, but about understanding their ephemeral nature. Ephemeral means not permanent, very temporary. So that's my best, attempt to describe it. I mean, we can look it up in the dictionary. Let's see if I can get there's some terms. If you wish, I could look up these terms. I know there was another term that we talked about that was immutable. So it mentioned immutable. So let's look up what immutable is for those who may not be aware, because I'm not trying to knock anybody, but some of you may be very studious and well read. How do you say? Very intelligent. Let's put it that way. Some of you may be very intelligent, more intelligent than even me. and even the author of the book. But for those who aren't, and including myself, I may have an idea of what immutable is and some of these other words like ephemeral, and I hear them in a sentence and get a good idea of what it means. But let's look up the definition as far as what it says in the definition for those who may be thrown off by that word, because some words you can get thrown off in your mind. Your logical mind is just trying to get stuck on that word, trying to figure out what that word means, and now you're stuck and you don't know how to jump the hurdle, or hurdle over that word to get the point that it's trying to make. So that those of you who are curious, we're going to look up what immutable is. So let's look up immutable. We're going to put define. I could put etymology of immutable. You want to do the etymology? Let's do the etymology of immutable. That's spelled I-M-M-U-T-A-B-L-E. So etymology of immutable shows, of course, Latin words. Immutabilis. Immutabilis is the Latin word of it. The word immutable means unchanging, unalterable. Means unaltering, unchanging. It is derived from the Latin word immutabilis. Immutabilis, which means unchangeable, unalterable. The word is a borrowing from Latin and was first used in Middle English period. The earliest known use of the adjective immutable is from around 1420 in the writing, Gregorian calendar, in the writing of John Lydgate, Lydgat, poet and prior of Hatfield Regis. The word is formed from a Latin prefix im, meaning, there's that im again. We'll get into that later. Meaning not opposite of. There you go. That's self-explanatory. But again, we'll get into that later. And the Latin word mutabilis, meaning changeable. So not opposite of changeable. I am. Imhotep. I am. But I digress. Let's get back to the book, okay? We got one more word. What was the other word? So let's look up the other word, which was, what was that other one? What was in this paragraph, which was, I think it was similar to phenomena. Ephemeral, right? I believe it was ephemeral. I don't want to hold this up. I know the clock is ticking, so I believe the word was ephemeral. I'm trying to find it here again. Find out where we left off. If you open your eyes, you will see the truth that lies right here inside of you, beyond the transient play of phenomena we call life, beyond everything we can see or perceive. When I say beyond, I don't mean beyond in terms of distance, but beyond in terms of subtlety. The search for truth is not about running away from the things of this world, but about understanding their ephemeral nature. That was the term. Ephemeral, spelled E-P-H-E-M-E-R-A-L. So let's look that up. Etymology of ephemeral. I'm not going to do this on every word, but I know sometimes it might be a little intriguing to some. Ephemeral. So let's look that up. Etymology of ephemeral. New Latin word, ephemerus. Ephemerus, E-P-H-E-M-E-R-U-S. The word ephemeral comes from the New Latin word ephemerus, which is derived from the ancient Greek word ephemeros. 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 Ephemeros means of, for, or during the day, living or lasting but for a day, short-lived or temporary. So it is describing the experience of short-lived or temporary. Okay, the word ephemera is also related to ephemeral and means lasting or living only one day, short-lived. So only for a day, in essence, in sense, only for a day, seemingly only for a day, you know? So temporary. Ephemeral nature. So let's read this sentence again, and you get a better idea of, how to apply it for those of you who were tripped up by that word. The search for truth is not about running away from the things of this world, but about understanding their ephemeral nature, their temporary nature. And more than that, it is about discovering our true nature as an inherent stillness from where even the subtlest movements of phenomena are being perceived. Now, I'm going to read that again. And more than that, it is about discovering our true nature as an inherent stillness from where even the subtlest movements of phenomena are being perceived. So from this inherent stillness, even the subtlest movements, you can get to, you can get in tune with yourself so much so that you can notice even the subtlest movements. For those of you who meditate, like myself and others, you can get to a state of meditation where you can even begin to hear your breathing. Not many people can really pay attention. A lot of people may think, and you ask somebody for the first time, can you hear yourself breathe? And you're like, what are you talking about? I can't hear myself breathe. Only sometimes. Like you may be sleeping or something, or you may have a helmet on. When I used to play football, I could hear myself breathe. That's because my ears were kind of clogged up and I could hear it. But without the ears being cupped or sound being returned back on it, you can still hear yourself breathe. Some people can say, I can hear myself think. Can you imagine? Many of us can hear our thoughts, but we never pay attention to it. How do you even know? How is it that your thoughts speak your language and you don't need a translator? You see what I'm saying? Your thoughts are speaking your language and you are communicating with your thoughts. You understand your thoughts. You don't need a translator. You're not moving your mouth. Nothing's coming in your ears as far as sound and vibration. You can even visualize things even with your eyes closed. So what is that saying about you? And what is that saying about the vessel that you occupy, or the body as we talk about? You see? So let's get back to reading. All right. So it goes on to say, as we left off where it says, and more than that, it is about discovering our true nature as an inherent stillness from where even the subtlest movements of phenomena are being perceived. It goes on to say after that, those who discover that reality of their inmost being enjoy a sense of peace, love, and wisdom as its natural perfume. They experience their essential nature as true freedom. Here you are invited into the direct experience of that limitless reality through the method of self-inquiry, which forms the essence of this book. Seeing from our true position, our true self, we come to understand that the appearance of any phenomenon doesn't mean it is true or real and of itself. To discover the truth, we need to look for more the one who sees all the phenomena. Can that ultimate seer itself be seen? I'm going to read this again because I know it can trip people up, because when I first was listening to Mooji describe this stuff, I had a sense of what he was saying, but I was getting caught up in the logicness of the words, trying to follow as natural a logical mind would, trying to decipher the words instead of trying to look at what the words are pointing to. So I'm going to read this again, and let's try to look at what it's pointing to. Okay? Envision, as it said in a few paragraphs before, is pointing to your true self, your true sense of yourself. Not the body, but the operator of the body. And with that in mind, let's listen to this again, and let's see this. Okay. Seeing from our true position, our true self, we come to understand that the appearance of a phenomenon doesn't mean it is true or real in and of itself. To discover the truth, we need to look for the one who sees all the phenomena. Can that ultimate seer itself be seen? Okay. So now we go on to the next paragraph. What capacity, what power is present here inside of us that we are able to contemplate and inquire into our ultimate nature with such subtlety? This type of looking into the truth of our nature and being is also called satsang. Now, satsang is spelled S-A-T-S-A-N-G. And if you want, I can look it up. Okay? Which means, but it already describes. See, it already goes on to describe what satsang is. This type of looking into the truth of our nature and being is also called satsang, which means association with the highest truth. Satsang comes in innumerable forms, sitting in the physical sense of a master, sitting in the physical presence of a master, following the guidance offered in a book such as this, working in the garden, playing with our children. Once you have the eyes to see it, every movement of life itself is satsang, calling you home to your limitless being. Welcome to satsang. So, since it emphasizes on satsang a lot, let's look up the etymology of satsang, if those of you who are interested in it. Let's make this real quick, okay? So again, we said satsang is spelled S-A-T-S-A-N-G. So etymology of satsang. Let's look this up. So what shows up is Sanskrit. S-A-N-S-K-R-I-T. Sanskrit. Satsang, it goes on to say, the etymology description of it, it says the word Sanskrit, and then it says satsang is a Sanskrit term derived from two roots, sat or S-A-T, meaning true, and sangha, meaning community, company, or association. So it's like true, company, or community, or association, company, community of truth. You know, however you rearrange that. The word satsanga, which is S-A-T-S-A-N-G-A, satsanga, they put the two together, is derived from Sanskrit, where sat means purity or truth, and sangha means in group or association. So, group of purity or truth, or association of purity and truth. The word comes from Sanskrit, and points to the meaning of spiritual seekers with a self-realized master. The term refers to the act of gathering with like-minded, uplifting people, especially those on a spiritual path. So now that you fully grasp, or you kind of get a better idea or grasp of what it refers to when it's saying satsang, you know, because I know some people can feel a little odd when their words, again, as it says, our conditioning, sometimes we can get scared off by certain words, or just not knowing, or not feeling comfortable because these words we don't understand, and some of us don't even have the mind to seek deeper and even look up the words themselves that we get tripped up on. We just may have a knee-jerk reaction to a word or a feeling or a notion, like, oh no, I don't want no part of that. That sounds like something odd. So that's what I'm doing for you. For those of you who are feeling like that or experiencing that, what I'm doing for you is looking it up, for you and explaining it. So hopefully it helps you to relax a little bit. Nothing shady's going on. This is seeking for truth. Okay. So here we go. We're going to go into the next paragraph. The power of self-inquiry. In the traditional way of learning, during childhood, we start simple in our knowledge. Let me read that again because I messed up. In the traditional way of learning, during childhood, we start simple in our knowledge. As we grow older, we become more complex. Now, as we search for the truth and turn the spotlight toward ourselves, we encounter much complexity initially, though we are in the process of evolving back into simplicity. I'm going to read that again because that's very key. Now, as we search for truth and turn the spotlight toward ourselves, introspect, we encounter much complexity initially, though we are in the process of evolving back into simplicity. Some people may say that realizing the self is difficult. I am here to show you that, on the contrary, it is exquisitely natural and effortless. And I can attest to that. It is. Once you get a good idea of, or you finally kind of begin to grasp what the words are pointing to, what Mooji's words and many other gurus and sages, that's the word I was trying to say, point to, what their words are pointing to. You can even go back and read the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or any other book, the Advaita, Bhagavad Gita. You can go back and read these teachings, and you can really grasp, because you're like with the painting, the vase and the two faces, you're not looking from one dimension or one perspective anymore. You're seeing it from this universal, or the source of the universal perspective. So there's no confusion anymore, you see? So here we go. I'll read it so it won't get lost, because it starts off in the middle of another sentence. I am here to show you that, on the contrary, it is exquisitely natural and effortless, meaning realizing the self. One might rightfully ask, if self-inquiry is so direct, why don't more people seem to discover the truth of who they are? As I often say, this is Mooji saying, as I often say, truth is simple, but the seeker of truth is complex. I'm going to say that again, because it's very key what he says. When the question was posed, one might rightfully ask, if self-inquiry is so direct, why don't more people seem to discover the truth of who they are? And Mooji's response is, as I often say, truth is simple, but the seeker of truth is complex. It means the seeker of the truth has a complexity that they're conditioned to see things as. We are conditioned to see in complex ways. Or better say, we are conditioned to complicate what we see. You see? We have been missing the obvious because we have been giving too much importance to what rises and falls inside our being. I'll read that again. We have been missing the obvious because we have been giving too much importance to what rises and falls inside of our being. This is like seeing only the waves while missing the ocean itself. So, again, like I said in the past video, it's kind of like seeing one pixel of the big picture and thinking that one pixel is all there is to life. You know, and it's like he says here, you know, this is like seeing only the waves while missing the ocean itself. The ocean is full of waves, but we're focusing on the waves and thinking that the waves is all there is. We don't realize the waves are just a fraction of the entire ocean. And when your mind expands out to be able to view the ocean, you're like, whoa. You know, sometimes you got to go slow because it can be too much, or it can seem to be too much. As we just said, you know, we can complicate it and start to believe it's too much when it's really not. It's very simple. But simply because we're not viewing it that way, it doesn't seem simple. You see, it doesn't seem effortless because we're not viewing it from the effortless perspective. So, okay. Truth is here. So let us take a look at what conceals it. This is the power of self-inquiry. What was hidden is quickly exposed. What is genuine is revealed. It is so immediate in its impact that all that is unreal is brought up to the surface quickly. All that is unnatural will be burned away. What is left, which is the pure natural, that will remain and be seemingly enhanced, but we'll know that it already is the enhancement, just the source of it. So let me go on. We see what we are attached to, whether or not there is resistance to change, and we uncover the hideouts and cul-de-sacs of false identity. So I'm gonna read that again because I keep interjecting, right? So truth is here. So let us look at what conceals it. This is the power of self-inquiry. What was hidden is quickly exposed. What is genuine is revealed. It is so immediate in its impact that all that is unreal is brought up to the surface quickly. We see what we are attached to, whether or not there is resistance to change, and we uncover the hideouts and cul-de-sacs of false identity. So again, I read, we see what we are attached to, whether or not there is resistance to change, and we uncover the hideouts and cul-de-sacs of false identity. When you're looking into self-inquiry, everything is presented in the here and now. In the energy field of satsang, what might have taken 7 to 10 years process is being compressed into 2 or 3 days. So again, I read, everything is presented in here and now. In the energy field of satsang, what might have taken 7 to 10 years to process is being compressed into 2 or 3 days. We get straight to the point. So it's saying we get straight to the point. What need is there to advocate strenuous practices of such lengths of time when truth is ever present as our very own self? Again, let's read this again. What need is there to advocate strenuous practices of such lengths of time when truth is ever present as our very own self? All that is required is that we recognize our real position as the ultimate witness, formless and immutable. Again, there's that word immutable again. Formless means, as self-explanatory, no form. So you, whether you're in this body or not, you still exist because you're the operator of this body. As I often say, you are the operator of the body. You are not the body. The body works in union and harmony with you. But without your presence, it would not be animated. It would not live. It would not be what it is without your presence within it. Therefore, you are the operator of it. You get it? Okay. So, the real you has no form. You only take on form when you take on an avatar or a vessel. The vessel, the vessel. Any form of El. Any type of species of creation. Meaning physical appearance. Okay? That which occupies it is formless. You see? It cannot be seen with the naked eye, but it can still be seen with that which exists before the naked eye. But that which exists before the naked eye is the same one doing the seeing. And that one doing the seeing cannot really see itself. It can't see its seer. I don't want to go too far to lose you. But just to keep it simple, you are the operator of your body. You are not your body. You are the observer of your thoughts. You are the place where your thoughts happen within, but you're not your thoughts. Okay? I hope that can keep it simple enough. So when we go through reading this, keep those things in mind. Okay? Or, for lack of better words, keep it in mind. All right. So it goes on to say, we get straight to the point. What need is there to advocate strenuous practices of such length of time when truth is ever present as our own very own self? All that is required is that we recognize our real position as the ultimate witness, formless and immutable. Again, immutable is, did we look up immutable? I'm not sure if we looked up immutable. That was the third word. So let's do that real quick. I don't want to hold everybody up. I know we're like 47 minutes in right now, so, and we're almost at the end of this, or maybe not. We got a few more pages. So what I may do is, oh yeah, this is the real deal now. Now we into like chapters and stuff. So yeah, I may read a couple of more pages and that be it for this book, and then we'll move to the next book. Okay. All right. So let's look up immutable. IMMUTABLE. I think maybe, we did look up immutable. So we covered that. So let's keep going. Immutabilis. That was the first word we looked up, right? Unchangeable. So here we go. Formless and unchangeables. Basically what it's saying. All that is required is that we recognize our real position as the ultimate witness. Formless and immutable. So when you realize this, the ultimate witness is what you are. And I would go into something deeper that I've gone in on some of my other videos, so I'm not going to do it now because we're going to keep on, moving on, so it won't take up time trying to read the book. So when I say that these pointings of the truth are direct, I am not saying that satsang is like a shop where you come to buy enlightenment over the counter, then go away all nice and shiny. So this is Mooji's words. So he says, when I say that these pointings to the truth are direct, I'm not saying that the satsang is like a shop where you come to buy enlightenment over the counter and then go away all nice and shiny. Rather, even within presence, and even in the midst of the joy and freedom of self-realization, a soft alertness or vigilance to the varying schemes of the psychological mind continues. And so, if something were to arise that seems to veil our true nature, it is easily detected. If there is any avoidance, cleverness, or pretense, it will swiftly be rooted out. you will know what is real and permanent and be able to distinguish that timeless nature from what is transient. Now, that's another word, transient, which means always moving, always coming and going type of thing. So if we want, we can look that up real quick. Transient, T-R-A-N-S-I-E-N-T. Etymology of transient. I don't know why I put Y, or maybe it automatic spell correct wants to put Y there. What sense does that make? Y-T-R. Anyway, Latin word for transient, transiens, spelled T-R-A-N-S-I-E-N-S, the Latin version, the Latin original term, or where transient was derived from. Now, the word transient is derived from the Latin word transiens, which means passing over or away. The word was first used in the late 1500s. It means not durable or transitory. The word is borrowing from Latin. So that's all it says about that. Okay, so let's get back to it. So now we've got a better idea for those of you who may be not familiar with the word transient. That's what that means. Okay, so the next paragraph goes on to say, some people are tired of practice, but practice should not be considered a dirty word. Self-inquiry is also a practice of sorts, especially in the beginning. It requires steady determination, commitment, and a sense of responsibility to your own self. However, such practice is not felt as a burden, but rather as a way to keep your witnessing fresh. So I'm gonna read that again because that's an important paragraph. Some people are tired of practicing, but practice should not be considered a dirty word. Self-inquiry is also a practice of sorts, especially in the beginning. It requires steady determination, commitment, and a sense of responsibility to your own self. However, such practice is not felt as a burden, but rather as a way to keep your witnessing fresh. Okay? Just keep that in mind. So calm is the next stanza or paragraph section. Once it happened that people came on a silent retreat with me, this is Mooji speaking, on a small island in Ireland. Once it happened that people came on a silent retreat with me on a small island in Ireland, getting tongue twisted with that. One afternoon, we observed a group of people taking a ride on the sea in a hovercraft. Because these crafts go very fast, skidding and bouncing hard on the surface of the ocean, the crew always straps you in tight. About 8 or 10 of us went for a ride. Then they had strapped us in carefully, and we had already enjoyed part of the ride sitting in silence. Then, while at full speed, everyone spontaneously started taking off their seatbelts to ride the waves standing up. The captain didn't even tell us to sit down and buckle up. When we came back to the shore, we thanked him for the fantastic time. The next day, the captain showed up at satsang. I had just been telling everyone about the experience when I noticed him. Ah, here is the captain himself. Here's the captain himself. I'm getting tongue twisted here. Then he said, I came because I take many people out on the sea, but I never see people this calm. When they were out on the water, everybody was so still, yet they were enjoying the whole experience. That is why I was not at all concerned when everybody started to stand up. So I wanted to see what this was all about. Their ability to be calm, so calm. There is something profound about being in satsang in the heart. Again, I'm going to read. There is something profound about being in satsang in the heart. It is not merely something mental, not just a pile of information. Somehow your heart comes and takes over your mind. It is almost as if you live life with a tongueless spirituality that speaks for you even if you don't speak about it. Something shines from that inner core. That's why they call the Buddha the Radiant One. That's why they call the Buddha the Radiant One. It shines when you are free of your mind, free of past, free of intention, free of desire, free of identity. So the next section reads, and maybe I'll read this section and that'll be it for now, and then we'll go into the next book, okay? Because we're at 56 minutes. We're already an hour in. Okay. Freeing up your being. If someone were to interview you every 6 months for 30 or 40 years, you would notice that what you had to say about yourself was different at each stage of life. You might also recognize that at each stage you were always convinced that your views were those of a stable entity, saying things like, "This is just how I am. You can't change a leopard's spots." One time you may say, "I strongly believe that we should be doing such and such." And then several interviews later, "I strongly believe that we shouldn't be doing such and such. We should be doing that other thing." It's just a changeful picture. Which of these identities is the real you? I'll read that again. One time you may say, "I strongly believe that we should be doing such and such." And then several interviews later, "I strongly believe that we shouldn't be doing such and such. We should be doing the other thing." It's such a changeful picture. Which one of these identities is the real you? If I were to ask you what your thoughts were exactly at 7:44 a.m. in this morning, would you be able to recall them? No. We can't even remember what we were thinking this morning. Yet we tell stories from when we were 15 years old and grant them great significance. We are often treading on the very shaky ground of memory, which can be highly distorted, but for the most part, we remain unaware of this. I'll read that again. If I were to ask you what your thoughts were at exactly 7:44 a.m. this morning, would you be able to recall them? No. We can't even remember what we were thinking this morning. Yet we tell stories from when we were 15 years old and grant them great significance. We are often treading on the very shaky ground of memory, which can be highly distorted, but for the most part, we remain unaware of this. Even as we begin to examine our beliefs about ourselves more deeply and thus come to the moment where we recognize that they are false, we somehow remain convinced that we are the person we think we are at any given point in time. I'll read that again. Even as we begin to examine our beliefs about ourselves more deeply and thus come to the moment where we recognize that they are false, we somehow remain convinced that we are the person we think we are at any given point in time. Despite recognizing the changeful and unstable nature of identity, we all too often continue to identify with the mind, which thrashes about in the time-bound realm, analyzing the past in an attempt to be better prepared for the future. That is so key. Let me read that again. Even as we begin to examine our beliefs about ourselves more deeply and thus come to the moment where we recognize that they are false, We somehow remain convinced that we are the person we think we are at any given point in time, despite recognizing the changeful and unstable nature of identity. We all too often continue to identify with the mind, which thrashes about in the time-bound realm, analyzing the past in an attempt to be better prepared for the future. I had to say that slow because sometimes if you skim through that, you're going to miss it. I said it this way, but I should have said it that way. This is an example of what goes on in the mind. You know, the voices and the thoughts that go on in the mind that we just, we kind of just we get caught up in. It recites something like this, sounds something like this. I said it this way, but I should have said it that way. I knew I should not have done that. Never again. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Never again. Why did I go? Why I didn't go? Why did I go? Why did I not go? These are the dialogues that happen in the mind. And it goes on and on and on and on consistently. If you pay attention to it, it's almost like some people have an issue where they're so focused on the dialogues that happen constantly in the mind that they feel like they can't even have any peace because they're not aware that they can ignore that. You see? Everything we want to accomplish takes time. But what is it that takes no time and requires no effort? What is it that is not in the region of time? I'm gonna read that again because I kind of screwed that up and I don't want to lose nobody. Everything we want to accomplish takes time. But what is it that takes no time and requires no effort? What is that takes no time and requires no effort? What is that is not in the region of time? No need for clocks. There is neither day nor night here. A great spaciousness opens up and a sense of peace pervades your being when you find that you are this timeless, unchanging, untouched awareness within which all experiences arise. I'm going to read that again. There is neither day nor night here. A great spaciousness opens up and a sense of peace pervades your being when you find that you are this timeless, unchanging, untouched awareness within which all experiences arise. You see? All of this happens within the real you that is the formless and timeless. You intuitively know that you are in the right place inside your true self. You recognize that these bubbles of thought, or indeed any phenomena, are not your essential being. Rather, they are generated by and held inside this great harmony, or oneness, you could say, that you are. I'm going to read that again too, so don't lose you. You intuitively know that you are in the right place inside your true self. You recognize that these bubbles of thought, or indeed any phenomena, are not your essential being. Rather, they are generated by and held inside this great harmony or oneness that you are. Okay, now here's the last part, and I'm going to cut it right there because we at 1 hour and 4 minutes right now. So the last one I'm going to read is Well, that's going to go on for a while. Okay, the simplest step. I'm going to read that, okay? So the simplest step we're going to go over. This says the simplest step. The step into oneness is the simplest step. You don't need a spiritual or religious background to take it. Be in your natural state. Being in your natural state is such a straightforward message. Or, no, I messed that up. Be in your natural state is such a straightforward message that I can even share it with children. I'm going to read that again because I don't want to lose nobody because I kind of jumbled that up. The step into oneness is the simplest step. You don't need a spiritual or religious background to take it. Be in your natural state is such a straightforward message that I can even share it with children. They respond well and are happy just to be in that feeling of being, not identifying with the mental imagery or thoughts, and without being located in time or confined to any particular shape. If you just stay like that, it eventually becomes effortless. The state of presence, the sense I am or I exist, is natural for everyone. No one needed to teach you this. When this sense I am combines itself or becomes associated with other states and ideas, it is as if those states become a part of what I am is. But they are not original to who we are. I'm going to read that again. The state of presence, the sense I am or I exist, is natural for everyone. No one needed to teach you this. When the sense I am combines itself or becomes associated with other states and ideas, it is as if those states become a part of what I am is, but they are not original to who we are. From a young age, we pick up many false assumptions about the world, about life, and about exactly who we are living life. The concept, I am the body, is the core belief we adopt very early on. Once we have accepted this basic I am the body concept as who we are, other concepts can now pour on top of it. I am a man or a woman, for example. I am ambitious. I am lazy. I am interesting. I am intuitive. I am like this or that. And so on. And so a unique psychological identity forms. So I'm going to read that again because I messed it up. The concept I am the body is the core belief we adopt very early on. Once we have accepted this basic I am the body concept as who we are, other concepts can now pour on top of it. For example, I am a man or a woman. I am ambitious. I am lazy. I am interesting. I am intuitive. I am like this or like that. And so a unique psychological identity forms. Mostly we assume that this identity is an unquestionable fact, and yet those acquired beliefs are not part of our original nature. We take ourselves to be a particular body with a unique personality, and this perspective remains with us as we live our lives. Taking this person identity to be true, we perceive ourselves as a separate entity in a world of many other separate entities and objects. It has a little keynote here. All that we refer to as being ours, our body, our mind, our emotions, is not what we are essentially. So that's the keynote right there. You could write many pages on all the nuances of your personality. For example, I am this particular type of person. These are my tendencies, my dreams, my aspirations, my possessions. This is my experience, and these are my certificates to prove it. As I said in one of my other videos, all the things you acquired from birth all the way up to now, your accolades, your name, your personality, your beliefs, all of these things, they are things that you acquired. You acquired those as you went on in life. You didn't have those when you came in. You see? And you're probably going to let them all go when you go out. Or seemingly go out, you know? As you drop the character you're playing. Let me stop elaborating. Let's get back to the book. But all that we refer to as being ours, our body, our mind, our emotions, is not what we are essentially. If this is too much to take in at once, let's break it down. Everything you can perceive comes and goes. This is the part I love. Including your own body. You are the one looking at time, objects, and even thoughts and emotions. I say that again because this is so key. This is probably the most profound key. That if you get this, if this becomes clear to you, just listen closely, please. If this is too much to take in at once, let's break it down. Everything you can perceive comes and goes, including your own body. You are the one looking at time, objects, and even thoughts and emotions. Through the senses, you are able to observe everything that is perceived as life, as manifestation, as existence. I read that sentence again. Through the senses, you are able to observe everything that is perceived as life, as manifestation, as existence. And behind the eyes, in the realm of thought, emotion, and memory, you also perceive these. These are perceived with the eyes of inner perception. Your sense of being a particular person is also perceived. Okay, I'll read it again. Through the senses, you are able to observe everything that is perceived as life, as manifestation, as existence. And behind the eyes, in the realm of thought, emotion, and memory, you also perceive. These are perceived with the eyes of inner perception. Your sense of being a particular person is also perceived. Regardless of whether the object of perception is physical and can thus be measured for color, shape, and size, or whatever, or whether, or whether what is being perceived is something more subtle like thought, feeling, and sensation. All are phenomena. It is the sense of I, the sense of I am that I am, the sense of I, that perceives them. First, I must be there. First, the sense of I must be there. One can say it is the password into this mighty game of existence. Only after I comes, you and other. Only after I comes, you and other. World, friends, education, desire, religion, and so on. Only after I comes you and other, and world, and friends, and education, and then desire, and religion, and so on. Only after I do all these things come. So now the question must be asked. I implies what? Who or what is I? When questions like these are asked, don't look for a verbal or mental answer. And don't trust so much in the mind and the learned knowledge. Rather look inward and see for yourself what these words are pointing to, what these words point to. The non-dual wisdom of Advaita invites you to find out for yourself what I really is, whether it is what you assume or imagine it to be. Okay? Most people have a strong sense of being individuals and hold the conviction that they determine their own experiences and are familiar with their own realities. That they may be true to an extent, but it is only a lesser relative truth. The greater truth is that you are the awareness within which the idea of yourself living a life and having awareness is appearing. I know that may sound a little confusing, so I'm going to read that over. Most people have a strong sense of being individuals and hold the conviction that they determine their own experiences and are familiar with their own realities. That may be true to an extent, but it is only a lesser relative truth. The greater truth is that you are the awareness within which the idea of yourself living a life and having awareness is appearing. In other words, the person we take ourselves to be is an idea emerging in the consciousness as an expression of consciousness. This idea has other ideas about itself. For example, I am a body that has consciousness and an independent life to live. Here is a joke that illustrates this confusion well. Listen carefully. A man sitting in the doctor's waiting room has a frog sticking out of the side of his neck. I'm laughing already. What? I'll read that again. A man sitting in the doctor's waiting room has a frog sticking out the side of his neck. When it's his turn, the nurse accompanies him into the doctor's office. The doctor says to the man, "So what's going on here?" The frog replies, "Well, doc, it started out last week as a small lump on my bottom, and it just kept on growing bigger and bigger." Anyway, all right, let me get to it. Let me keep reading. Aren't you surprised that the frog replied? Yes, I am. So much in our lives is based on conditioning or conditioned thinking. So much in our lives is based on conditioned thinking that we insist on believing. What we have been brought up to believe is what we have consciousness. Oh, what we have brought up to believe is that we have consciousness. Okay. I hope I read that right and I didn't lose you. What we have been brought up to believe is that we have consciousness. And I say no. At the level of the body, mind, and the personality, we are the product and expression of consciousness. I'm going to read that again. We have been brought up to believe, what we have been brought up to believe is that we have consciousness. And I say no. At the level of the body, mind, and the personality, we are the product and expression of consciousness. But because of our cultural conditioning and inherited ways of thinking, all based upon the idea of personhood, this simple assertion I have just made, namely that each of us as a person is the expression of consciousness rather than its creator or controller, seems illusory, meaning illusion. Seems like an illusion. Evasive and elusive. I'll read that again. But because of our cultural conditioning and inherited ways of thinking, all based upon the idea of personhood, this simple assertion I have just made, namely that each of us as a person is the expression of consciousness rather than its creator or controller, seems illusory, evasive, and elusive. We insist that we just don't get it. We may even experience a kind of nausea because we are not used to thinking like this. As we said the other day when we did the first version of the book, you're not used to thinking this way. You're not used to perceiving from this place that you forgot you can perceive from. We are accustomed to a certain way of thinking, but there are ways of understanding that bypass impersonal thinking. Oh, let me read that again. We are accustomed to a certain way of thinking, but there are ways of understanding that bypass the personal thinking mind and are profound in their impact. Mind in its natural, intuitive function is a higher power than the personal mind mode. Mind in its natural, intuitive function is a higher power than the personal mind mode. The natural mind operates in a much broader way. It is not obsessed with activity or identity. It is clean and clear, empty and fresh. So life simply unfolds. One stays in complete harmony without strain or effort. The natural mind is in a state of grace. When you are established in and as the self, whatever is going to happen will just spontaneously arise out of that oneness. I repeat again. I'll read this again. Not repeat, but I read this again. When you are established in and as the self, whatever is going to happen will just spontaneously arise out of that oneness. If you study and learn as a person, you can only function as a person. Maybe as a good person, a skilled person. But when you awaken to the truth, you start moving as a whole environment. When something arises that needs to be done, that need is recognized, and a movement to fulfill it begins. And other streams join in until it becomes a river. You see how the forces join together? There's that harmonious balance we were talking about. Then you are actually, which is otherwise known as Ma'at. then you are actually looking at this whole matrix of life and seeing that it is the one doing it all. I'm going to read that again. You see how the forces join together. Then you are actually, okay, I'll read it from there because I don't want to lose nobody. When something arises that needs to be done, that need is recognized, and a movement to fulfill it begins, and other streams join in until it becomes a river. So you see how the forces join together. Then you are actually looking at this whole matrix of life and seeing that it is the one doing it all. The one meaning the self, the I that am, the I, the consciousness, the supreme God consciousness. You are not merely thinking this, you are actually seeing it with God's eyes. The ones that still see even when you close these eyes. Otherwise known as the third eye. Again, I read this. You see how the forces join together. Then you are actually looking at this whole matrix of life and seeing that it is the one doing it all. You are not merely thinking this. You are actually seeing it with God's eyes. At this point, allow some space for understanding to happen without the interference of your logical mind. Your mind cannot take you there, as I said in one of the other videos. Just be empty, without relating to any thought, intention, or identity. Like this, beyond mind's efforts, you stand a chance of discovering the naturalness of life and being. I'm going to read this again, and then we're going to stop here and go to the next book. At this point, allow some space for understanding to happen without the interference of your logical mind. Your mind cannot take you there. Just be empty. Without relating to any thought, intention, or identity. So just be empty without relating to any thought, intention, or identity. Like this, beyond mind's efforts, you stand a chance of discovering the naturalness of life and being. Being. Just be. Being. You get it? Okay. So we're going to stop there. That is page 14. Okay, so from there I'm going to make a bookmark here, and maybe at another video we'll continue from that point. All right, but again, this is the book by the author Mooji and this the great sage Babaji, Mooji Ji. Much respect and gratitude and appreciation. The name of the book is Vaster Than Sky, Greater Than Space. What you are before you become. This is a great book. I really encourage anyone and everyone to get this book. One of many great books he's authored. And read it. And if you have time, sit with it. More importantly, to take time and sit with a satsang with Mooji. You can look him up on YouTube. You can look him up on Google. You know. But just get a book, read it, or you don't even have to get the book. Look at the videos. Just take the time. They may be long, but take the time to listen. Not with your mind, but listen with your heart. Take the time and get someplace quiet and listen to the pointings that Mooji's pointing you to, whether you're reading in the book or whether you're just listening to the video, or any sage, whether it's Dev Guru or Sat Guru or Maharishika or Ramana Maharishi or HWL Punja Papaji, or many of the other sages and even ministers, and there have been ministers and prophets that have touched on these same topics. Many of you who learned the Medu Netta, who learned of our ancient ancestors in Kemet, they touched on these very things. A lot of these teachings came from what is known as Kemet, where it was called the Medunetta, or Sanskrit, or Coptic. All of those are coming from the same origin. All roads lead to the same origin, or same destination, so to speak. And so this is what is known as seeing beyond the veil. This is something that the physical mind cannot grasp, because the physical mind can look for something physical. But this is what existed before physical, so the physical mind is not going to be able to grasp this. So you have to leave behind your physical mind and its tendencies and listen with your heart, because it is presence from which this is being spoken from. So it is presence that is going to be able to pick up on what is being said and be able to perceive what is being pointed to. You get what I'm saying? I guess it's the best way I can express this. Presence is here. Presence is what you listen with and see with, or as, I guess you could say. And so that is what you listen as. Your now hearness. Listen to the pointings that Mooji's saying, or, you know, even if you're getting it from me, because I'm not doing anything but saying the same thing that Mooji's saying, and same thing other sages are saying. Mooji's saying what other sages and gurus are saying. We all are saying the same thing, whether we have the titles of gurus or not. You know, we're all saying and pointing. We're not even saying, we're pointing to the same thing. All religions, ultimately, if you really read it, especially after you come to know this for yourself, that is being expressed right now, and you go back and you read the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or the Bhagavad Gita or the Tao or the teachings of the writings of the Tao, or, you know, any teachings, any writings that are spiritual in essence, that are talking about this experience, because this is the experience. So pay attention to what the words are pointing to. They're pointing to the experience. The religion. When you look at Christianity or any other religion, Islam, all of it, what it is giving you stories and descriptions of the experience. No matter how you say it, no matter how you put it, no matter how you slice the pie, it's still a pie. It's all pointing to the same origin, which is the experience. This experience that you and I are right now as the God consciousness, the I that am. And I can't help but continue to show gratitude toward Mooji and many others, because just like Papa G was to Mooji, Mooji is to me, because I had this within me, but I just didn't know how to express it. And when Mooji comes along, I came across Mooji a few times before, and then when I come across the videos, I'm like, okay, now that I'm older and I have a better vocabulary and I've gone through some things, and now I can really grasp what he's pointing to. Whereas before, I already kind of was aware of what he was pointing to, but I was concealing it because nobody around me would even be, you know, I was treated like I was loony bird. I mean, can you imagine being a young man, or a teenager or adolescent or young kid trying to express this, and people looking at you like you cuckoo, and hey, don't talk like that no more. Nobody know what you're talking about. See, there he is again. You know, he's a Pisces. He's all up and everywhere and everything, and you know that's how they are. You see, but it took someone who was here longer, knew the language longer, and was able to be articulate in expression to confirm that keyword, confirm what a lot of us already know in our hearts, and to come out and say, wow, that's what I'm talking about within. That is what was in here has been screaming all along. But this was kind of muffling it because, oh, don't say nothing. Everybody gonna start treating you this way and all this stuff. Anybody, and people gonna laugh at you, or they gonna think you stupid, and they gonna think you crazy, or people gonna try to take advantage of you, or this or that, or whatever. And then that dilemma starts going on in here. And then now, because of the dilemma, or not dilemma, because of the dialogue that goes on in here, you overthink it and you shut down, you silence yourself. You see? Because you're worried about things that are really not relevant to you and your now experience. These are things that you're thinking about in the future that may happen, or things in the past that have happened, but they're not your now relevant situation. You get what I'm saying? Because if you go to the past, it becomes now. If you go to the future, it becomes now. You see? So it's all relative. The only thing that is not relative is your now. Your right now. Because if the past changes to now when you arrive at it, or the future changes to now when you arrive at it, then truthfully, neither past nor future exist. Only now exists, because once you arrive, it becomes now. You see? So why are you worried about the past or the future? So much so that it begins to stifle you. Or, it's a lesson I learned. I learned it. And thanks to Mooji and many others who have inspired me, not just Mooji and not just gurus and sages, but many other people who are of other religions, imams and even Malcolm X and the great Honorable Louis Minister Farrakhan and the Honorable Malcolm X, the Honorable I'm trying to think of the name. I know them as some of the L's, but you may be familiar with their names, but I can't recall their names right now. But in my heart and in mind, I'm envisioning their faces. They know who they are. But I am grateful to all who have inspired me. I'm not taking ideas or anything, because this is not an idea to be taken. This is a presence to be expressed. It's not an idea to be taken. So nothing can be taken or given. There is only this that always is, and it can only be expressed. So that's what I'm doing as the I that am, which is the same I that am that Mooji is, and the same I that am that you are, the same I that am that we all are. Because all of this that we think we are is happening within the I that am. You get it? But anyway, it's an hour and 38 minutes, and I'm like really going on, so I'm going to quickly go over to this book by another good author I'm fond of, as I said before, Billy Carson. And I think we left off last time reading, we stopped at Catholic influence on our awareness of alien presence. So I'm going to introduce the book, of course. This book is by the author Billy Carson. There's a little glare in here. I got the lights on for so you can see my face and see some of the book, but that's a little too much glare. I hope you can see that. It's entitled The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, a Beginner's Guide, authored by Billy Carson. Of course, Billy Carson has gotten the original information from a lot of our ancestors, or a lot of us in more ancient versions that have included himself and many of us in ancient versions that have left this information and passed it on. Of course, it's been manipulated in some ways, but it still reaches its destination regardless, right? So let's read this section here, and as I'm reading, no offense to anyone, to Catholic Church or anyone, but I'm just reading from the book, right? And if things are documented and found to be factual, then so there it is. So let's read this, okay? So, It starts off Catholic influence on our awareness of alien presence. Again, so people are not lost, I'm no longer reading the book by Mooji, Faster Than Sky, Greater Than Space. I've moved over to this book here, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide, authored by Billy Carson. So here we are. Catholic influence on our awareness of alien presence. In conferences held in 2009, 2011, and 2014, the Catholic Church supported the possibility of alien or alien life. I'm going to stop saying alien because most people recognize it as alien, okay? More recently, according to the Catholic Register of February 23rd, 2018, Pope Francis was quoted during routine mass as saying, Pope Francis was quoted during a routine mass as saying, if an expedition on Martians arrives and some of them come out to us and if one of them says, me, I want to be baptized, what would happen? Who are we to close the doors? Okay. So, I'm going to read this again. More recently, according to the Catholic Register of February 23rd, 2018, Pope Francis was quoted during routine mass as saying, if an expedition of Martians arrives and some of them come to us, and if one of them says, me, I want to be baptized, what would happen? Who are we to close the doors? The Vatican Observatory has been at the forefront of efforts to bridge the gap between religion and science. At the 2009 and 2011 conferences called by Pope Benedict the 16th? I guess that's the 16th. We got an X, a V, and an I. I guess that's 16. So, 32 scientists gathered. Okay, I'll read that over because I stopped. Excuse me. At the 2009 and 11 conferences called by Pope Benedict XVI, 32 scientists gathered to address the questions of life's origins and of whether life exists elsewhere in the universe. Meeting at the world-renowned Vatican Observatory, founded in 1582, an atmosphere of discovery, flexibility, and possibility of being open to change could be found everywhere. Vatican Observatory scientists, clerics, have generated top-notch research, collecting one of the world's most significant collection of global and other earthly data. At the first conference in 2009, Reverend Jose Funes, director of the world-renowned Vatican Observatory, was able to present progressive results from the interdisciplinary group of astronomers, physicists, and biologists. Included among the many topics debated were life's origins and the existence of life in the universe, known as the field of astrobiology. So it's known as the field of astrobiology. He revealed, although astrobiology is an emerging field and still a developing subject, the questions of life's origins and of whether life exists elsewhere in the universe are very interesting and deserve serious consideration. These questions offer many philosophical and theological implications. For Funes, excuse me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, the challenge of philosophy and theology seems to be how to find consensus within this discourse. Reverend Funes expressed to the Vatican newspaper, Okay. For Fuentes, the challenge to philosophy and theology seems to be how to find consensus within the discourse, Reverend Fuentes expressed to the Vatican newspaper. El Osservatore Romano, that one's faith in God cannot find compromise simply because one also believes in the existence of extraterrestrial life. Okay. So, what he expressed to the Vatican newspaper is El Osservatore Romano that one's faith in God cannot find compromise simply because one also believes in the existence of extraterrestrial life. So he's saying you can't compromise your faith, and you can't say that someone's faith is compromising God simply because they believe in extraterrestrial life. That's what he's pretty much stating. How can we rule out that life may have developed excuse me. How can we rule out that life may have developed elsewhere? Just as there is a multitude of creatures on earth, there could be other beings, even intelligent ones, created by God. This does not contradict our faith, because we cannot put limits on God's creative freedom. The belief that we will eventually encounter alien life is strong among most secular and church scholars today. When that life presents itself to us, or when intelligent beings become aware to us, they will be considered a part of God's creation. Key word is when they become aware to us. You're already aware for quite some time, even before you were, even before vessels appeared. One of the invited scientists to the conference was Chris Impey, an astronomer professor at the University of Arizona. Impey believed it to be suitable for the Vatican to hold this kind of meeting. Both science and religion post life as a special outcome of a vast and mostly inhospitable universe. That is not true. But there is a rich middle ground for dialogue between the practitioners of astrobiology and those who seek to understand the meaning of our existence in a biological future, and whether sentient life forms exist on other worlds. With much excitement, Impey added that if biology is not unique to the Earth, or life elsewhere differs biochemically from our version, or we ever make contact with an intelligent species in the vastness of space, the implications for our self-image will be profound. Okay, that was a lot to read, so I'm going to read it over. All right. There is a rich middle ground for dialogue between the practitioners of astrobiology and those who seek to understand the meaning of our existence in a biological universe, and whether sentient life forms exist on other worlds. With much excitement, Impey added that if biology is unique to the Earth, or life elsewhere differs biochemically from our version, or we ever make contact with an intelligent species in the vastness of space, the implications for our self-image will be profound. Okay, so I know it's been reached, it's going on for quite some time. I may be running up on 2 hours. I was trying to keep it under 2 hours, but I'm gonna read this last section, and then I'll read a little bit more from this book next time. Okay. So the next section reads as the vastness of our universe and beyond. It reads as, besides the hundreds of planets discovered outside our solar system by scientists, the European Space Agency recently announced the finding of 32 new planets. According to Professor Impey, we may discover alien life in measurable in years, not centuries. Let me read that again, because that threw me off too. According to Professor Impey, we may discover alien life immeasurable in years, not centuries. Planets that might sustain extraterrestrial life potentially number in the billions. In November 2013, astronomers interpreted data from the Kepler space mission, suggesting that just within the Milky Way galaxy alone, our home galaxy, as many as 40 billion Earth-sized planets may be orbiting around sun-like dwarf stars. Against that incredible number, astronomers have discovered approximately 3,700 planets that exist in the habitable zone, known as the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone refers to those planets, like Earth, positioned just right from their suns for life to exist. The task of finding the planets that exist within Goldilocks zone is daunting. It can be difficult to fathom that from the substantial number, life must exist. Many believe life even exists long before our scientific technology existed. That is very true. Of those discovered, the closest planet within the Goldilocks zone is Proxima Centauri b, which is 4.4 light years from Earth, which would take a mere 54,000 years using current propulsion technology. All other calculations of travel time find a basis in hypothetical systems not yet in existence. I would like to add that not long ago, there was articles, and you can look it up on Google if you wish. There were articles stating that possible life was detected by super intense imagery telescopes at Proxima b in the Proxima Centauri sector, and the surface of the planet appeared much like the Earth when you see it, the Earth when the sun is on the other side of the Earth and you see the dark side of the Earth. You see lights, you see civilization, you see strings of lights going across the borders of the continents and the water, and you just see evidence of life. You see lights. So they said lights were detected by these super sensitive telescopes that were viewing Proxima b. I would like to add, with a telescope like that, what kind of telescope is that? If you have technology that can do that, then why don't you have the technology that can travel there? If you can see it, I talked about this in another video. I'm not going to go into it, but that's just something to think about. Okay, let me keep reading. Perhaps life on Proxima b is calling humankind to make the trip. Perhaps extraterrestrial life has already made the journey to Earth. Since August 24, 2016, we have known the address of this possibly inhabitable planet, which is Ra 14 hours 29 minutes 43 seconds, December, or Deca, negative 62 degrees 40 by 46. Now these are I guess, I don't know if that Deca means or decibel, what that DEC stands for. I have to go back and try to remember. But those are actually coordinates. Probably, well, they're not multidimensional, but anyway, let's read on. There exists 40 billion Earth-sized planets in one galaxy. 40 billion that they can see. Earth-sized planets in one galaxy that they're able to view right now, as of now. Can you believe it? According to the news report from the Royal Astronomical Society posted on January 16, 2017, the Astrophysical Journal reports that there are approximately 2 to 10 trillion galaxies in the universe and within each galaxy there are 200 billion stars like our sun. The obvious question left is just how many planets are there in the entire universe? Current speculation estimates 480,000 million 480,000 million thrice great. Like we said last time. Okay. Furthermore, with every new technological development in the field of astronomy and astrobiology, the data presents larger and larger numbers. You might ask, what do all of these numbers mean? They are markers of authenticity. Our study of the Emerald Tablets necessitates that we have a clear and profound understanding of the massive size of our universe. Perhaps we would be safe to declare the number of planets in our universe are unknowable. Our human minds may be too finite and limited to fully grasp the immensity of the secrets of our universe. That is why you do not use the mind. There is something here that was here long before the mind was ever developed, that watched the mind develop and wanted to experience what it's like to operate the mind and operate as the mind. The mind had to have something to develop within. So that's just something to think about. The numbers of the habitable planets are so unimaginable that there is room for every theory. There is room for every theory that has been proposed about time, space, and alien life to be validated as correct and true. Absolutely. How could it be any other way with that much? So much that you can't even fathom. So how could you say it's not so? You don't even know because you can't even fathom the vastness of it yet. You're still thinking with the physical mind. But the physical mind is only relative to what it observes. And its observation field is limited. You see? So, there is room in the vastness of space for all of our theories to exist. Understanding the magnitude of the number of planets in our galaxy enables us to realize that the odds speak for the existence of extraterrestrial life forms. Simply put, it would be more unimaginable to believe that there is no alien life elsewhere in the universe than to believe that the Earth is the only inhabited planet. The vast numbers of planets in the universe give credence to our understanding of ancient alien races existing over tens of thousands of years. Okay. And so I'm going to stop it right there because it's getting a little late and I'm going to have to try to turn in, get a little bit of rest so I can start driving early in the morning. But we're going to leave it there. The next part is religion and science. And that's page 6. We're only 6 pages in here. So, you know, again, this is the book, The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide, authored by Billy Carson, you know, or put together, assembled, very well, I may say, assembled by Billy Carson, assembling all the knowledge and wisdom and facts and references and things of that nature about some very profound topics, which is cool. But again, I strongly suggest that if you're going to read this book, it would be good to read this one and try to get a grasp on who and what you are, so that when you do read these type of things, your mind isn't limited because you're not reading with your mind. You see? If you're trying to swim and the clothes you have on are taking you under, you can't float because the clothes are on you and it's keeping you from floating, then at some point you have to shed those clothes. You have to take those clothes off so you can float. You see? So if there's things in your mind, programming, conditioning, upbringing, as said before, that hinder you from having an open mind and an open heart, then you may want to shed those things for the time being so that you could be able to learn. You learn something new, you grasp something new. But it's not really new. It's really you. You come to awakening of your true self. You wake up and you look in the mirror and you see your face. The one that existed before this one. The one that still exists now. You see? Anyway, it's been a pleasure to read these books with you all. I hope those of you who are listening have enjoyed it. If you do enjoy it, like, subscribe, share, and whatever else you want to do. If you want to send a donation, whatever, you can. I'm not asking. You don't have to. So I just enjoy reading this. I enjoy sharing this information with people. You know, I enjoy interacting on these topics. And not only do I enjoy it, I know it's important. So there it is. There you have it. At this point, it is already 2 hours and 1 minute, so right on the mark. I was trying to get under 2 hours. That's not really on the mark, but I'm working on that. So we're going to go ahead and end this session right here. And thank you all again for your patience and your willingness to listen to me read to you. And I hope you got something from it. I hope you gathered some good information from it. But more so, I hope you gathered more insight into your true self as to who and what you are. I hope more importantly that resonates and settles within you, and you come back to resonating with your own self, it better say. So anyway, I wish above all things you prosper as your soul prospers, and coming to know the true self that you are, the self, the one, the consciousness, God consciousness, the Christ, the Christ. That is the prosperity. It's more than the prosperity. It's the truth, the way, and the light, and the life, the source of it. So I pray and I wish above all things that this is the prosperity that you blossom into. I love you genuinely. And until next time, when we read these again, I wish you well. You be well. You be safe. And we will talk again soon. Okay? Eternal.